Here is a very interesting article. It's American astronauts to again use Russian Soyuz rocket to reach ISS as NASA can't rely on unstable US tech, Moscow space chief. And after the US bought a seat on a Russian spacecraft to send a NASA astronaut to the International Space Station, the chief of Russia's space agency, Roscosmos, claimed that American spaceflight is still unstable. Now, what they're talking about is that from 2011, when the US space shuttle fleet was retired, the US depended entirely on Russia to send its astronauts up to the International Space Station. And if you don't know, the International Space Station was partially built and is to today maintained by Russia, along with the US, Japan, and the European Union. It's interesting because now NASA does actually have the ability to send its own astronauts back up to the International Space Station through SpaceX's Crew Dragon, but it's a new spacecraft. And so it's going to take a while for it to reach full capacity, to meet all of the requirements NASA has. And until then, Russia is able to pick up the slack. Now, I think this is a very interesting story because it proves that what we're being told by Washington and the US corporate media about Russia being this implacable enemy of America and of the world, if you're to believe the narratives, it pokes a hole in that narrative because here the US is entrusting the lives of its astronauts. These are people who train for years and have millions of dollars invested in them for them to be able to carry out their tasks. They're entrusting the lives of these astronauts, these very special people, to Russia, this country that we're told every day is this villainous, malign force on the international stage, and yet the US is entrusting their astronauts to Russia. So something is not adding up here, and can you guess what it is? It's the story coming out of Washington and the US corporate media. They're lying. They lie about everything. When the US and Russia have to cooperate, they're able to. The US is able to trust Russia with something this important. And Russia has regularly delivered. They sent astronauts to the International Space Station for a decade. And they're still doing it. It's an interesting story. It's a story that pokes the hole in this very nasty narrative that the US has put together about Russia. And I think that it also applies to China. I think that the US could work with China in a very similar and constructive manner. The problem is that Wall Street cannot accept finding a constructive role to play amongst nations. It is still insisting on placing itself above all other nations as a hegemon, as a modern empire. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share. Think about subscribing. Check the video description for the link to my other video channel on Odyssey in case YouTube deletes this one. There's also ways there that you can help support my work, like by becoming a Patreon member. And as always, thank you for watching.